Yeah, I remember this. One of these walls opens up, and you can't open it from this side. I can't remember how we did it. Is it the wall or the floor? Something in here opens up, but you can't do it from in here. You have to do it from the other place. And you can only get to it from a quest. When you get done with the quest, you're all of a sudden in this building.
Very old wall, thoroughly raked and destroyed.
Can't remember, how did we end up in that building? It's a DLC quest. I haven't done the DLCs as many times as the base game. This is my 5th completionist run, so I've only done the DLC 4 times now. So, I end up forgetting the DLC stuff. It's always the DLC stuff that I can never remember.
While others risk their lives for you.
Everybody likes the DLCs better. I actually don't. That's why you don't see me playing the DLCs over and over again like I do the rest of the game. Wait a minute. Where was we gone? What was we doing? I don't even remember. Yeah. We'll just wander until we figure something out. That's what we usually do. Oh yeah, does that brown and green dress. I like that. You know, that's something I might cosplay. Just to make that dress. Not uncommon for me to do that. Cosplay some background character and then people are like, who's this supposed to be? Like, it was an unnamed character in the background of some TV show or movie or something. One of the cosplays that I did for a long time, and I still wear it once in a while. Is it on this side or the other side? It's on the other side of the closet, right? Yeah, it's on the other side of the closet. There's a triple closet here. There's 3 rows of clothes. But it was, what's the movie? Sense and Sensibility, the one with Alan Rickman in it. Obviously. It's the only one I would watch. The one with Alan Rickman in it. At some point in the movie, it was a... Wow, I haven't seen that movie in years. Go back and rewatch it. There was a picnic in the movie. And there was like this random background character. I don't think it ever even says her name or anything. It's just like this villager that happened to be there. And I liked her dress anyways. It was just this, you know. It's one of those characters that walks by and you see her for like maybe 2 seconds in the movie and that's it. And you never see her again type of thing. You're a non-named character or anything. It's like, I like that dress. So I went and made that dress. And I cosplayed that character for several years. People were always like trying to figure out, so is it from this movie? And don't tell me, is it from this movie? And nobody could ever figure out who it was. It was... I had to be like, wait, you mean it's just some random walk by? It isn't anybody? Yeah, that's all it was. Random walk by, it wasn't anybody. And I was just a situation where I like that dress. And we're gonna start up the cosplay sewing streams again really soon, within the next couple of days. I gotta get my sewing stuff set up. We don't have everything we need to fully finish the coat, but we've got enough stuff to get it wearable. It should have around the bottom edge of it a lot of foxtails. I measured. Minimum, it's going to need 60 foxtails. And depending on how fluffy they are, it could need twice as many. So it could need 120 foxtails, not 50, 60 foxtails. So, that's still missing. Still missing the bulk of the foxtails. But we've got the rest of the fur, so I can make most of the coat now. The problem is the convention said I wear the Avallac'h costume at happened in the middle of summer, usually during a heat wave. So I'm not going to be able to wear the fur coat at conventions. There is no way you can do that. Also means retiring the original Boom Fuzzy cosplay. Because I am taking the Boom Fuzzy cape apart and using the materials from that as the base for Avallac'h's coat. That's made out of coyote, mostly. People who are history buff fans go into hysterics. But yeah, I'm disassembling that antique coat. I'd already planned on doing that a while ago. When I first started making the Avallac'h cosplay, that was the original plan. I was going to take that coat apart. The problem is there isn't enough material in that coat to make Avallac'h's coat. You haven't read the novels. Avallac'h in the novels has this big giant fur coat, which was almost a character in itself, and he always had this big fur coat on. Which I love. Why doesn't he not wear it in the game? Because he always wore it in the novels. That's why that altered costume that we put on him that has a big fur thing on it, that was the reason I did that. That's the closest I've been able to get him looking like he was in the novels. In order to make his clothes the way they were described in the novels, we're going to have to make a new 3D model. There's not enough material for other characters' clothes that we can put together to make it. That's something my brother was complaining about the other day. He just watched a Netflix series. He's a huge fan of the novels. He's worse than I am when it comes to nitpicking if you change something. Uh, when I bought the Inuyasha DVDs, he took all of my Inuyasha comic books. They're all up there. I have all of them. All 558 volumes. Multiple versions, multiple editions. And I have all the DVDs. When I first got the DVDs, when I got the English language DVDs, because it wasn't originally available in English. So it's when I got the English language DVDs. He came over. As soon as he found out I had that, got all my books out. This was at the Water Street apartment. Lined up all the comic books on the floor. Got all the DVDs out. Put the DVDs in. Sat there going through the comic book line by line. And the DVD, watching the show. And pointing out every single mistake. Every single mistake. They got this wrong. They got that wrong. But he's a huge fan of the Witcher novels. He's the one that got me into the Witcher series. I think the Witcher novels might be his favorite books. I don't know. No, I do know. Dritz is his favorite books. I think the Witcher novels are his second favorite books. It's Dritz. He's crazy over Dritz. He's got all the Dritz series as well. Obviously somebody who likes elves. He was over here the other day. He just watched a Netflix series. And his complaint? They got the elves wrong. He's sitting here going on and on and on and on and on and on, and he says, "Where's your books? I know you always got them around here. Where are they?" And I give my books out to the Witcher novels. He opens them up, he's flipping through, and he's like, "This one right here. He's supposed to be wearing this. He's got a fur coat, he's wearing furs, he's got squirrel tails." I'm like, okay. He is so mad that the elves in the Witcher Netflix series are not dressed properly. They're not wearing their right clothes. Then he's going on and on and on about the game. He said they did the same thing in the game. None of the elves in the game are wearing the correct clothes. Yeah, he's right. None of the elves are wearing the correct clothes. I should get him on a stream sometime. You guys would love hearing one of his rants, because he can go on and on and on and on about how extremely inaccurate. He's somebody who, he goes by books. He loves books. He reads books more than I do, I think. But he's extremely does it what he did the first time I saw him do it was with Harry Potter. He went crazy when the Harry Potter novels came out. He was just right there to read every single one of them. We had to stand in line in front of bookstores to buy them and make sure we get them to first day and everything. He could always get to the bookstore to get there. So I frequently stood in line at bookstores for, 10 or 12 hours at midnight before the store opened to make sure I got him his books the first day. And when the Harry Potter movies came out, we got to hear weeks of rants on all the hows and whys and reasons of everything being not correct in the movie. Did the same thing with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. We both did it with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I've read all 5 volumes of the trilogy 7 times. And boy, did they change it a lot. But he's also a fan of ElfQuest. Again, elves. He actually likes dwarves more than he likes elves. But he likes elves a lot. The thing is, it's painfully obvious when you read the Witcher novels. Andrzej Sapkowski was a fan of ElfQuest. He plagiarized ElfQuest a lot. And so the elves in the Witcher novels are more or less Native Americans. They're wearing buckskin and they're wearing furs and they're fighting with bows and arrows because they haven't invented metals yet. They are very much Native Americans from 1500s era. Exactly like ElfQuest. ElfQuest is elves in old America. It is elves that are Native Americans. It's based heavily on Native American folklore. Which is why all the elves have animal names. You know, very stereotypical Native American names like Running Bear and Crying Wolf and all that stuff. And that's the way the ElfQuest series is. And in the novels of the Witcher series, that's the way the elves are as well.
Sometimes I wish I could be like that.
The word Avallac'h is Welsh for fox. Fox was his spirit animal. He wore fox furs. He wore fox skins. People called him the Fox because of it. Aradin is the one who wore feathers because Sparrowhawk was his name. And Sparrowhawk was his spirit animal. The elves in the Witcher novels are extremely Native American inspired plagiarism of ElfQuest. And then you get to the game, all 3 of the games, and the Netflix series, and what do you see? Lord of the Rings elves. Yeah. Netflix was definitely heavily influenced by the novels when they designed the elves. So, yeah, I agree with my brother where the public thinks of elves as Lord of the Rings, high elves. Oh, look, all these little elegant elves floating around in their robes. They weren't like that in the Witcher novels. As I said, I've had people ask when because I've talked about it for a few months now. I've talked about it for, almost 3 years now. The plan to make Avallac'h's fur coat. And people are like, he doesn't wear a fur coat. He does in the novels. Half the time, that's all he wears in the novels. Alright, that's another thing where you see his house in the game. We see a giant four-poster bed in the bedroom. Because him and Siri were sleeping together, we get descriptions of his bed. It was the fur coat. That's why there's so many descriptions of the fur coat. And they didn't sleep inside. That was another thing. They would set up camp on a beach outside somewhere or find some grove, and they slept on the fur coat. I like ElfQuest a lot, and it is so rare that you find elves not portrayed in the stereotypical Lord of the Rings style. Which is one of the reasons I liked ElfQuest, because the elves are so damn different in that. And that was also one of the reasons I got hung up on the elves in the Witcher series. Because they were not the stereotypical Lord of the Rings elves. They were just like the ElfQuest elves. And stood out as really unique. Yeah, I agree with my brother in his outrage over the fact that they've made elves look like Lord of the Rings elves instead of how they were actually described. Oh, that was one of the reasons that humans in the Witcher series looked at elves as mindless savages. They were running around wearing furs and shooting with bows and arrows. Most humans thought of the elves as savages. There's a lot of racism between humans and elves in the Witcher novels. It's pretty bad. It's really bad on disturbing levels. Like if you're somebody who is, what would you call that? Like not a social justice warrior, but yeah, kind of a social justice warrior. People who have risen up in the last few years. These people who are just like overly sensitive to anything and everything and think they're social justice warriors, but haven't got their heads out of their ass enough to know what social justice actually is. Those type of people. Anybody who's like that, they're not going to make it through the race riots and stuff that are in the Witcher novels. Because they are really bad. You gotta remember also the elves in the Witcher novels. When you're reading the Witcher novels, the elves are speaking Elvish. That's something that it's like Star Trek fans who, hey, I know how to read Klingon. So Star Trek novels have Klingon speaking in Klingon because there's enough Star Trek fans who know how to read Klingon. Witcher novels are like that when it comes to elves and gnomes. The elves are speaking Hebrew, the gnomes are speaking Hebrew. The gnomes are speaking straight up Hebrew unaltered, and the elves are speaking Hebrew that has Welsh and Latin prefixes and suffixes added to them. The racism stuff against the elves in the novels is really, really, really bad because the elves are portrayed as Jewish and the author is a Jewish Holocaust survivor. And so he's writing the humans massacring the elves the same way he saw Nazis massacring his family when he was a child. So when I say the race stuff gets really, really, really bad in the Witcher novels, it's really, really bad. A lot of people aren't prepared for that because that's not a typical thing that you see. You think most people, when they hear about the race stuff between elves and dwarves and humans and all that stuff, which is common in fantasy, it's not usually portrayed real world accurate to what you actually see with racism, and it is in the Witcher novels. So it does come off really disturbing. It's a common reason why people stop reading the novels. They will get to one of those scenes and they're like, oh my god. There seems to be a lot of those scenes where because more people are reading the novels. So I'm seeing more and more streamers talking about reading the Witcher novels now. And a lot of them don't get far in. They'll be like, oh my god, I got to this scene and it was like, oh my god, I couldn't take it. And then another streamer will be, oh my god, I got to this scene and it's a completely different scene. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. That's Andrzej Sapkowski didn't care about sensitive snowflakes. He just, this is what he was going to write and he wrote it. Which, not a lot of authors do that today. A lot of authors today are worried about, oh, we don't want to offend somebody. He definitely didn't care about offending anybody. All of them. There were more over there, weren't there? Over there? The grass is too tall. We can't tell if there's loot in it.
Cyril will wait.
Oh,
Safe
oh,
distance
oh.
from the north.
I thought I saw them chasing one this way. The Barghast and the dog. But I'm not seeing one. Maybe it was these here, but they weren't that far away. We did pick up two right here, but yeah, right there. I thought there was one further back, and I'm not seeing it. There possibly is, and his body already vanished and we just can't see the loot sparkles.
I'm still a long way from mastering anything, but I am trying. Anyway, I did learn from the best.
Somebody's making a series of mods. We'll have to use them. They're making a series of mods that change the world to match how your game ended, so that when you play, you can continue. When you continue to play the game, most people play the base game and then play the DLCs after. They don't. So you end up, after you get the base game, you're still wandering around the world because you've got quests from the DLCs. And it's a thing I had talked about. I said someday we'll make a mod like this, and it wasn't a high priority, so you've heard me talk about it, but it's one of those back burner mods that I was going to get to at some point and just never did. But I don't need to now, because somebody has actually started doing it, and they've been releasing them all week. There's been several of them go up. Where, like, if Radovid and Redania win the war at the end of the game, it changes all the tents that you see in the world. All the Nilfgaardian tents and stuff are now changed to Redanian tents. And it changes the big Nilfgaardian camp, which we should probably go back there. We left a lot of loot there. What are you doing? Are you really trying to fast travel? Okay. How and why did you do it? Where are we? Where are we? What's that we're seeing up there? You're... Oh, you're the guy with the horse, right? Is this the horse guy? Is that who we are? We hardly ever come over here at all. We should explore this area more. This is an area of the map that we have not explored. There's probably Easter eggs or something over here that we haven't seen yet too, then. Saw a guy today get an Easter egg. He recognized that. Why did the game do this? But then he didn't recognize what it was, and nobody does. It's really rare that you see somebody who recognizes it, at least not in their first playthrough. If they get it later in their second or third playthrough, if in their first playthrough they got the Dead Ciri ending, they'll recognize the Easter egg when they go back and replay the game and they see it and they're like, oh my god. But on blind playthrough, nobody ever sees it. Most people go into playing the game, they don't realize that Ciri can die. They don't realize that that's a possible ending you can get. so nobody thinks of it. But he triggered the Dead Ciri Easter egg, which occurs during the Battle of Caermarthen. If you've picked options that unlock the fact that, yeah, you've now got the Dead Ciri ending active, and you're gonna have to work hard to make sure that you don't kill her now. It'll trigger a cutscene where Nibbles walks in carrying a dead swallow. Nibbles the cat walks in carrying a dead swallow. And the cutscene zooms right in on him. He's right there, the whole screen. There's Nibbles right there, looking right out at you while you're playing the game, and he's got a dead swallow in his mouth. And a lot of people, when they get to that, they're like, why is the game zooming in on this cat? Not everybody gets that, but it's the...
How did you fare on board, man?
You've unlocked the Dead Ciri ending. If you get that cutscene, that's what it means. It's the Easter egg that tells you, you better watch your step because you just killed Ciri. If you don't know how to do it, it's actually fairly difficult to keep Ciri alive. Most people... 83% of all people who play the game get the Dead Ciri ending on their first playthrough. It is the most common ending. Once you've got that ending in your game, and then you go back and replay the game to play the game and be like, how do I keep Ciri alive? If you get that same cutscene again, usually the second time people see it, they realize, oh, that cat just killed a swallow. Oh, we just killed Ciri with that choice, didn't we? You did. You want to try and keep her alive? Save the game, go back, change your quest choice, change your choice there. That's what you want to. You still at that point have a chance of keeping her alive. Oh, you really gotta suck up to Avallac'h though. You gotta get an Avallac'h We Trust active in your game. You want to keep her alive once you've triggered the dead swallow cutscene. Tough luck doing that. Most people hate him. You gotta get enough points with Avallac'h to get the one of the endings where Ciri's still alive at the end. Once you've activated the Dead Ciri ending. Can we talk to you again? You're a bit traumatized because we were fighting bandits. Can't talk to you again? Where'd your horse go? This is the guy that lost his horse, and we gave him his horse back, and his horse ain't here now. Why's your horse gone again? There's actually somebody playing the game right now who stands a really good chance to get an Avallac'h We Trust. Ironically. Definitely the most unique reaction I have ever seen to Avallac'h. While I'm working on mods, I've always got somebody working on mods here, and I've always got somebody stream going on my other, that I'm watching on the other monitor. As a guy to gay, he just did Ugly Baby. I've seen so many people do Ugly Baby. I've seen so many reactions to that quest. Gets through the whole trial of grasses and all the, stuff that's going on and happening and everything, and then all of a sudden his reaction is, oh my god! He's like, oh my god! There he is! It's Avallac'h! It's Avallac'h! And I'm like, wow, this is a reaction. He's so excited. There's Avallac'h. Definitely strange reaction. Somebody in his chat's asked him, and they're like, I've never played this game before. How do you know that character? His answer, oh, I watch Hellcat stream. Okay. Guess that's good to know. I turned somebody into a screaming fanboy if I'm looking for it. He's happy he's gonna have luck in the game now. I wonder, how long is that gonna last? People don't like him a lot, very fast. They learn to hate him quick. Most hated character of the Witcher franchise. He beats out Vilgefortz and Leo. How and why? Arcaspores. Did they actually die? Did we actually hit it? Oh, that happens so rarely. Usually we kill one of them, and at the same time we kill one of the first one. That second one shows up to kill us. Was there only one here? No, there was more of them. Did eruption trigger? And I didn't notice. I didn't notice eruption trigger. Eruption would have killed all of them at once. I think the thing is, more people know the game than the novels. So most people don't know Vilgefortz or Leo.
Recognized the strength of my argument.
And now that the Netflix series has got people buying the novels and reading the novels, that could change the whole Avallac'h being the most hated character, because now people are actually going to find out Vilgefortz and Leo. Of course, you still have the same problem that everybody hates Avallac'h for, is the fact that 1,000,001 people try to get in bed with Ciri. Avallac'h actually does. And when you get right down to it, that is why everybody hates him. Everybody's like, this guy's evil, he tried to have sex with Ciri. This guy's evil, he tried to have sex with Ciri. This guy's evil, he tried to have sex with Ciri. Oh my god, that guy's evil, he did have sex with Ciri. Okay. Please look in the mirror, and every time you have sex, tell yourself you're evil then, okay? Really, do you people listen to yourselves when you say these things. Oh my god. Okay. One guy who raged and raved and ranted in my chat, I think he described it best with his raving and ranting. We just killed our last ship. Like the 68 men in the series who are hunting down Siri because they all want to have sex with her, because that's waifu. This guy who showed up in my chat, and is the one who later showed up in my house, was screaming and yelling that Siri was his waifu and he had to kill Avallac'h because Siri's his waifu. And she can't have sex with this guy. She's supposed to have sex with him. She's a fictional character, you know that, right? God. I understand getting obsessed with stuff. I get obsessed with stuff all the time. I mean, you see how obsessed I am with Avallac'h. But my brain still knows that these are fictional characters. I can't identify the fact that they're not real. And these people who get so worked up and just clearly they can't tell the difference between fiction and reality. They're kind of scary when they do those things. They're terrifying when they do those things. But they're also, I look at them and I'm like, how are you any different from the 68 men who obsessively chased down Siri trying to rape her? And think about that. I've discovered that people have strange reasons for liking and disliking characters. That's what the Avallac'h playthrough has taught me more than anything else. I've asked a lot of these people when when I still had chat on it, there was this wild craziness was happening in my chat. And I'd ask them, why do you like Siri? And the answer would always be, look at her booty! So what? Why do you like her? Boobs and tits and ass! And I'm like, you haven't answered my question. Why do you like her? Then the other ones were like, but she's so OP, she's like Superman. Okay. The people who like boobs and tits and ass, they need to read the novels. Because she doesn't have the boobs and tits and ass in the novels. And the people who call her OP and Superman, they also need to read the novels because she has no magical abilities or superhuman powers or any of that stuff in the novels. Either. Siri was described in the novels as chubby, roly-poly, overweight, obese, gluttonous, slothful, a slob, flat-chested, and looked like a boy. She was fat and had no breasts. She also had no face. Her face had been cut off. Two-Face from Batman had more face than Siri did. So if you only like Ciri because of what she looks like, you're going to be hugely disappointed when you read the novels. Because Ciri in the game looks nothing like Ciri in the novels. And Elder Blood isn't the spooky booga booga, hey, magic powers. Elder Blood is, oh my god, she has the ability to get pregnant. Which is seen as a magic power since everybody's infertile.
Where are my clothes?
The sonic scream you see her doing in the game, Avallac'h's the one who did that in the novels. Quite a big difference to the novels to the game. So you removed the things that everybody likes about Ciri. The boobs, the tits, the ass, and the OP powers. Let me ask again. Why do you like Ciri? I had somebody a few months back. They're like, well, okay, I can still like her if she looks like this in the novels. I can still like her if she doesn't have magic powers. She's sweet and wholesome and kind and loving and good. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you need to read the novels. Page 158. Not a page you hear me talk about very often, but page 158 of Lady in the Lake. Read that one.
What? Do you fear I'll level this place
Read
like
that one and
corn?
not want to stab her eyes out. You get in that one a 2.5 paragraph long rant from Ciri, where she details the fact that she hates babies, she hates children, and her number one goal in life is to hunt down every pregnant woman on the planet, stab them in the belly, and relieve them of the parasite that is about to destroy their life. That's Ciri's number one goal in life. That's what she says. Page 158, Lady of the Lake.
Shame I can't do that at will.
I
I'd
still
like
think
to
that's
now.
kind and loving. She's got some anger management issues that need to be dealt with. That she is definitely something else in the novels. You get hit by a lunch dagger? No. Okay. Or then you could also look at my favorite page to talk about. Almost 20 pages later, page 179. Ciri wants to have sex with Avallac'h. Avallac'h is a virgin, asexual, and living a celibate lifestyle. He's a priest. He doesn't want anything to do with sex. So Ciri rapes him. He runs away from her. She tries to rape him again. He runs away from her again. 3 times later, she finally decides she's had enough of it. She breaks his leg, rapes him again, then castrates him because she's mad that he refused to have sex with her. Again, kind, sweet, loving, wholesome Ciri. They said, they changed her a lot in the game. Oh boy, did they change her a lot in the game. As I said, why do people hate Avallac'h because he had sex with Ciri? Because he didn't have sex with her willingly. She raped him. Brutally. Left him crippled for the rest of his life. I don't know why he can walk in the game. He couldn't after that in novels. I continue to ask people, why do you like Siri? Then you get the end of the novels. The only two people she doesn't hate both die. She tries to resurrect them, and oh my god, everybody who told me my Elder Bloods had powers, Avallac'h was right. They don't. I can't do anything. But then she remembers, if you kill enough millions of people and drain their blood, oh yeah, you can give the illusion that dead things are still alive. Let me go find the necromancer who did that and have him spend the rest of eternity being my little slave and killing millions of people all over the universe to keep the illusion that these two people are alive, even though they're dead and it's just a holograph. And I know it's just a holograph, and I know millions of people are being massacred on a daily basis, but hey, it looks like they're alive. So who cares about all these millions of people who are dying? The end. Yeah. Kind, sweet, loving, wholesome Siri. The Witcher novels are the backstory of the childhood of the Lady of the Lake. So you find out how she became the Lady of the Lake. The Lady of the Lake being one of the primary characters of the King Arthur novels. She's also a villain in the King Arthur novels. So you see Ciri become progressively more and more and more villainous until you get to the end where she's... And people look at the ending as good. They're like, oh, but Geralt and Yennefer are alive again. No, they're not. That's not what it says. That is not what it says. The illusion that they are alive is there. That tells us how insane Avallac'h is, too, because he's quite happy to kill millions of people if Ciri's gonna tell him, hey, go do that, and he just does it because he can't, for some reason, can't disobey her. I have such a hard time understanding why people are so obsessed with her. Although I have seen a lot of people, once they read the novels, they're like, oh my god, and then they don't like Ciri anymore. That I've had people who have asked me. But how can you have her in the game if you don't like her? I don't like what she did. That's different than not liking her. And you do gotta remember, in gypsy culture, apology is a really big thing. Ciri did go back and apologize. That made a difference. that made a really big difference in my ability to like her. You do see her being a piece of shit and getting worse and worse with each passing page, and you also see her step back and be, oh my god, what did I do? Why did I do this? And then apologize and ask for forgiveness. You do see that point. I said that makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. That's why you see me not liking Triss and a lot. Because Triss doesn't apologize. She just deviated? I pity anybody who is a huge Triss Marigold fan that they read the novels. There goes another lesson. I think of any character that got changed, Triss Marigold is the one that got changed the most from how she was in the novels to how she is in the game. In the game, there's nothing to make her unlikable. Or at least not Witcher 3. There is in Witcher 1. There's scenes in Witcher 1 to make you want to wring Triss Marigold's neck, and a lot of people agree with that. But not in Witcher 3. I mean, there's nothing in Witcher 3 to make you not like her. You read the novels, and it's like, oh my god, how is this anything even remotely like the character we saw in the game? This is a place where we've been here before, so we've already done this. Is this like... Oh, where...
The Lodge must then prevent the ship from returning to the world of the air, while the Imperial fleet blocks its escape by sea.
I heard more than one. Ah. Werewolf? Bruxa? Not a Bruxa. What are you? Fletter? Is that a Fletter? Hardly ever see Fletters. Yeah, that was a Fletter. Almost never see Fletters. I think Fletters are probably one of the rarest monsters in the game, aren't they? I must never see those. It is lore friendly for Avallac'h to have a weakness for vampires. Because we are told that in the novels. I don't know why they would have coded him, though, that way. That's why I kept his the NPC coding. He still has the NPC coding. And then there's thousands of additional codes that Geralt has that control the player character. that you have to have that the NPC doesn't have. So I had to go and rewrite all of those to make them match Avallac'h instead of Geralt.
Avallac'h says nothing will come of this until I stop thinking about the battle.
And because they had already had that in his code where he's weak to wraiths, especially noon wraiths, and vampires. Anything that in the player character code and Geralt's code that would have somehow been affected by wraiths and vampires, I put that in it to keep him still having difficult. That's why we're always having trouble with wraiths.
Not good.
Okay, now we're back to where the game glitched us to. Okay. Yeah, we already deleted that. Yeah, we were told in the novels because he spent 700 years cloning himself to build Laura Darren. It took 700 years to grow her in his lab. And he used too much of his blood doing it. He almost killed himself to make her.
He is intent on my gift not falling into the wrong hands, not spinning out.
See, he was very anemic,
It's why he teaches me
and he was
protect.
scared of vampires as a result. When Geralt goes to visit him, Geralt has got Regis with him. Avallac'h won't let Regis in the house. He's absolutely terrified of vampires. He's scared of swords. He wouldn't let Geralt come in the house with swords. Geralt had to stay outside. Geralt had to take the sword, because the novels he has one. Yeah, he had to give the sword to Regis and tell Regis, wait outside. Avallac'h had a massive
She needs time.
post-traumatic
We must
stress
let her resolve
disorder,
grief.
fear of swords and vampires. He was scared of anything that could cut him and cause him to bleed because he was terrified of bleeding to death. And vampires because they drink blood. That's why it's... You see that scene where he's carrying a sword in the game and it's like... He had a massive phobia of swords. He wouldn't let a sword near him. Why did we see a scene with him carrying a sword in the game? He wouldn't have. That was why the scene where he let Ciri have a sword. That's why she started trusting him. Because she didn't trust him originally. She was scared of him originally. She didn't know who he was. He just all of a sudden showed up in her life and she'd never seen him before. She had no clue who this guy
I am
was.
not your foe. I am merely helping Cirilla.
That scene. When he says that, he's holding a sword when he says that. But yeah, when Ciri first met him, she was scared of him. She didn't know who he was, and her initial reaction to everybody was to just automatically... She'd been abused and tortured by so many people. Her reaction to first meeting anybody was always automatic, oh my god, there's yet another person who's going to try and hurt me. She was scared out of her mind of everybody. Yeah, she had reason to be. Everybody was trying to kill her. Everybody was after her. that's how she gets that sword, even though the game tells you otherwise. You know, Avallac'h gave her that sword. You see a scene in the novels where Avallac'h gives her that sword. And very specifically,
Many times.
we're told he has a huge phobia of
It
swords.
was then that Avallac'h appeared. Out of nowhere.
And that's why he gives her a sword, to prove that he isn't gonna hurt her. It's also why it was so easy for her to almost kill him when she did. She went at him with a sword, and he had a crippling phobia of swords. It shut him down to have a sword swinging at him. There aren't many scenes with him. He is an insanely minor character in the novels. And so when one of the bigger scenes is telling you repeatedly that he has a massive phobia of swords,
Gel's headquarters.
why do we see him with a sword in the game? Why did they do that? And clearly they read that part because they did code him to have a huge weakness when a vampire attack, which is weird since he never encounters you never see him and a vampire at the same
What's that
time
got
in
to
the
do with
game.
anything?
Why did they code him with a weakness to race? I don't understand that. What logic they used for that? Assumption would be something to do with the scene where we're told he's a wraith, and then the rest of the novels completely ignore that and act
Right.
like, nope,
I have everything.
that wasn't there.
Now for a spot where I can build a fire.
It's one of those scenes, and there's so many of them in the novels full of them, where it's clear Andrzej Sapkowski wrote something about a character and then kept on going and forgot he wrote it. That's Oxenford. But we just left it. We don't need to go back there. Where did we leave our horse? That's right, since the game teleported us. No clue why yet. I still can't figure out why did that happen. But we're kind of sort of almost back to where we were before the game decided to move us. Can we run away from the wraiths that are gonna run with us? Wraiths stay with us? Yeah, wraiths stay with us. There's something else around because the medallion thing just came on. But it went back off. Okay.
I'm not at all shy. I just wanted something to sit on.
The game tells you he's a wraith too. And again goes nowhere with it, just like the novels do. Tells you that in the first quest with him. The Wander in the Dark with Kira. Why did you do that? Alright, we'll run through a field then. Our horse just decided to change direction on us. This Fagelbud? It is Fagelbud, right? Yep, Fagelbud. What? Our horse did weird. Can we jump our horse over that fence? That move that our horse just did. We probably would want to save the game in case we break something doing that. We should do that. These weird things that we try doing, we tend to break the game when we do. How did we jump you here? Right here we jumped you. Can't go through doors? No. No. There's no way into this place outside of the quest, but we have found areas like this before where we were able to jump over the fence. And then suddenly we got inside. And then we were stuck inside. And we couldn't get back out. Our horse is having trouble running. Good bad terrain for horse running. There's no place where the ground goes up higher than the fence, right? But what are you stuck on now? But our horse gets stuck on everything. No? No place that's low enough where we can try to jump our horse over it. I know why the game keeps putting those horses in. Those 3 horses that were just standing in the road. There's some in Skellige like that. They keep showing up. We'll go by and there'll be a horse standing in the road. Then a few days later we'll go and by again and there's 2 horses there. And we'll go by a few days later and there's 3 horses there. And there's like 20 horses at the place in Skellige where it does that. We're at Alness. There's cows here. Yeah. There's cows here. Yes, the only time we have our not law friendly sword is when we're doing not law friendly things like killing cows. There's usually chickens running by here. This is one of our livestock towns where we get all our livestock supplies. Which I didn't realize we were this close to. I guess because we were doing our random running on our horse.
So the mountain elves could summon the vessels of the ML.
We kind of got turned around.
Now it merely serves as a symbol of a lost opportunity to unite the 2 tribes.
You can get blown up in this town too. Didn't realize that was an option. I thought we had every possible option for that quest. No? No? You can.
Appearances
The
can
whole town can blow up. You can die with everybody in this town. That was a thing we did. Not realizing it was gonna happen. The goats are always so hard to catch here. They run too fast. But there's usually also geese and chickens, and I didn't see the geese and chickens here today. They do spawn in different every time you come here. The stuff spawns in different, so sometimes there'll be 2 goats, and sometimes there'll be 10 goats, and it just randomly spawns stuff in, so you never know exactly what's going to come here. But there's always geese and chickens as well. This is also a good way to make money in the game, which seems to be our goal. We seem to have gone on a how much money can we make in the game thing, because we're at 120 million now and we haven't stopped yet. Would like to see what is the upper cap. Where does it stop letting you collect money? And it's kind of squishing the numbers up right now. So it looks like it wasn't entirely made to be able to have 120 million. It's not squishing them up anymore. That's interesting. When it first went to 120 million, the bill was like over the first 2. We were having a hard time seeing it. Okay. So it realigned itself for some reason. Went over 20 million yesterday, 120 million yesterday. Our goal was to see if it would count up to triple million digits. Originally it was, can we carry 1 million? Yep, it went up to 1 million. I thought it was going to stop at 1 million. And then we were able to go past 10 million, so then we wanted to see if we could get it to 100 million, and now we have. And I wonder, when does it ever stop? Will it ever reach a point where it stops letting us add money? I don't know. But now I'm wondering, can we make it to 1 billion? Will it hold 1 billion? And how long would it take us to do so? seems like it was going to take a while, but we have no plans of getting to the end of this playthrough anytime soon, so we can definitely keep going. And now that we've done that, all the cows have come back. So we can loot twice as many cows. Oh, and let's attack this cow. Law-friendly, Avallac'h is a pacifist. He calls himself a fauna rights activist as well as a human rights activist. He is a vegetarian. And he would not do this. This is so insanely, extremely not law-friendly for Avallac'h to be killing cows. Very out of character for him to do something like this.
Wait, she needs time. We must let her resolve her grief on her own.
It's kind of weird, conflicting things about his personality because he's absolutely horrified by the thought of hurting anything. And we are told very specifically, the narrator tells us he has in the novels, he's like a beast lord, and he's got hordes of animals and monsters that just follow him around everywhere. They just stay with him. He had hundreds of Barbagazi, and he had echinops and archospores and knockers, which are like trolls. Vampirodes. What else did it list? There were several of them that it listed. I can't remember what they all were now. And ocelots. And he had all these animals that just... Geralt described it as he'd never seen anything like this before, where he was so peaceful that there was no animal and no monster that was scared of him.
Zirel, can you hear me?
Where are my clothes?
We're supposed to be living, not hugging Siri.
Come on.
It's more life-friendly to be hugging Siri than it is to be living,
I
not.
want a hug.
Come, we must go.
All right. We'll talk later.
Okay. Back to what I was doing. Except you're stunned now. Okay. Now we can go back to what I was doing. But in the narration, it tells us that he had never shed innocent blood. And because of that, he was considered to be somebody who had never committed sin. So nothing was scared of him. Animals and monsters could tell when somebody had killed something. They could smell the scent of blood on you. And earlier in the series, Geralt had heard it mentioned that people like that existed, and he laughed at it because his twisted, corrupted mind came to the conclusion it wasn't possible that there was anybody who had never committed sin. It wasn't possible that there was never anybody who had never killed anybody. It wasn't possible that there was anybody who was fully innocent and had never shed innocent blood. So when he meets Avallac'h, he's stunned by it. It just blows his mind away, the fact that, oh my god, I finally met somebody like this. We're also told that Avallac'h cannot tell a lie. He has a spell on him that prevents him from telling a lie. He always tells the truth, everything he says. Even if he tries to tell a lie, he always tells the truth. You can't not tell the truth.
I ask as a courtesy, a concept you clearly forgot when you left without uttering a word.
But that's where the big contradiction comes in. Because it also reaches a point where Siri finds this massive ravine full of bodies and finds out that he's been killing a lot of people. But we're also told because it's only women who had had abortions, therefore he had never shed innocent blood because he was just executing murderers. That's where there's a huge confliction in his character, where you get this whole pacifist who's never hurt anybody and wouldn't hurt anybody, and that's why he kills people who have had abortions, because he's horrified that, oh my god, you've killed a baby. You understand that better if you have read the novels and realize his wife died when she was 8 months pregnant, and he is an absolute total obsession. She was pregnant with somebody else's baby. He had never had sex with her. She was 8 months pregnant when she died, and he was absolutely, completely, totally obsessed with having a family and having a baby.
Discouraged after a mere 8 attempts.
So it horrifies him to discover that there's women who have abortions and kill their babies that they don't want. There's the geese. The geese, but not the chickens. Also, did we kill the cows too many times? They don't seem to be respawning back. The cows have a cooldown. I can't remember what it is, but I know the cows have a cooldown code in them so that they don't keep respawning back if you kill too many of them. Are they the only thing that has a cooldown code like that? I don't know. All dead? Yes? Okay. Did we ever use Eruption when we was playing as girl? I don't think I ever did. I never used signs much when I was playing as girl. My first blind playthrough, we never even used Quen at all, never used Oxy at all. We did use Igni and Ard a little bit, but not much. I don't think I ever used Erden either. Did we use Erden in the first playthrough? We rarely ever used any type of anything for signs, so it was almost straight up swords. That's because I'd already played the first two games. The combat system's quite different in the first two games than it is in this one. The combat system is more lore friendly to the novels in the first two games than it is in this game. In the novels, Geralt wasn't using signs that much. And he used Oxy when he wanted to have sex with some woman and she said no to him, and I was like, well, you're not going to say no to me, I'm going to Oxy you. That was Geralt's Oxy in the novels. Igni in the game, you get this whole ability to go whoo and kill things, and in the novels it was ah, a spark! I can light a fire. Geralt wasn't a magic user. He was grab my sword and hack and slash. So when you see this really overpowered magic that you can use in the game, that's not lore friendly. Not at all. Geralt also, his use of potions wasn't, hey, I'm going to use this potion and help me fight better. No, it was, oh boy, I'm going to use this potion because this is great. This is like LSD. Oh boy, this is bad cocaine. That was Geralt's potion use in the novels. He's quite different in the novels than he is in the game.
Avallac'h is right. If I do nothing, else all will face destruction.
That was... Witcher 1 stayed closer to the novels in that respect. Where you saw Geralt, spells didn't do much. They were rarely used. They were an afterthought to help you, light your campfire. They weren't used for combat much at all. It was just... alchemy is a big thing in Witcher 1, but again, it was a lot more lore friendly than Witcher 3. So I did go into Witcher 3 already knowing, even though I hadn't read the novels at that point, I knew enough information from the first two games that Geralt didn't like using signs. He wasn't good at using signs. He was a really good sword fighter. He was a good combat type fighter, but he magic wasn't his thing. He didn't trust magic. That he had this whole attitude of, oh, magic, get that away from me. That's why heavy use of the signs playing as Geralt, it's not lore friendly. He did not trust magic at all. And so I did go into Witcher 3 knowing that about him. There's none of my Geralt playthroughs where we did much with signs. We did go really heavy on alchemy in the third playthrough. But I didn't switch over to using signs. Can't go in here, right? Yeah, I can't go in here. Can you go in here after the quest? I don't think you can go in there after the quest either, can you? There's a quest involving that house, so that's why the door's locked. If you play it right, or I suppose you can play it wrong, you can blow that house and yourself up. I thought we had done all the options to that quest. We discovered that on the first Avallac'h playthrough. We're there at that quest, and we're like, so which one we want to do? We've done all of these. And so we just picked one, and all of a sudden, the result was quite different than a result we had ever gotten before. And I was like, wow. There's an ending to that quest I hadn't seen before. Okay.
There'll be nothing to stop him from returning. He hasn't ever had a problem changing his mind.
I'd never heard anything about it either. That was the thing. After my first blind playthrough, we went back and looked up how many endings do these quests have. Because then I started using guides to find out how do we get these other endings. I wanted to get every ending for every quest. And so I thought we had all the endings of that quest because I had seen guides that told you here's how you get this end, here's how you get this end. I didn't realize there was another ending that I hadn't found a guide, so was not expecting to get blown up. That totally didn't expect that. Did we trigger that again? I don't remember which option it was that caused that. Here what the options are. It's a DLC quest. This is a DLC map that gets added to the game.
No, that's not right. I wasn't in a shipwreck.
I've only done the DLCs 4 times. I haven't done the DLCs. I didn't do a completionist run all the playthroughs. The Gels playthrough was really short, so wasn't the Regis one. Both of them were both really short because I only did the main story for the base game. Didn't do the side quests. Didn't do DLCs. Yep, the cows are not coming back. There's supposed to be a merchant over there also, but I accidentally killed him. I was like, well, he'll just come back next time we come back. But we've been back a few times now, and he hasn't been back yet. I think we permanently killed him.
Siri.
Not Siri, no.
Siren. Can you hear me?
Where are my clothes? Carmen, don't just stand there. I want a hug.
Come, you must go.
All right, we'll talk later.
Okay, stop being stunned and go back to looting. So, is it more love friendly for her to have Zero or Erendite? Because we do see her with both. Zero is the one she has the longest. That's the one she's usually got. I figured out how to switch swords on her. So we've been able to give her different swords, but we end up keeping her with Zero. We always end up going back to Zero. Had we do Fierce Saber for a while, which was the same one we had Avallac'h with, because I just like that sword. But it's not lore friendly for Avallac'h to have a sword at all. We just took 66 apples out of what appeared to be a tiny box. Was it a bag of holding?
In that case, let's go.
You seem to have killed the cows too many times. Or, I think it's by number of cows. And there were quite a few cows there. Yeah, it's supposed to be a merchant standing over here. We keep coming back and checking. Is he back here yet? He keeps not being back here yet. We just keep checking. Okay, sooner or later he comes back. Is that ragweed? That looks like ragweed. That definitely looks like ragweed. Yeah, see, he used to be sitting on this chair right here. This little stool chair
He simply
thing.
doesn't like others
right
to
here.
see it.
Okay. I hear race, but we already clicked loot before I heard him. I see a werewolf. Did you guys kill the race? I only saw you kill a werewolf. There's one dead race. Is there only one race? And we were fighting them. You know, like we always do. We accidentally killed the merchant. And the merchant just doesn't spawn back in anymore. You were a torchbearer. We just picked torch loot up off of you. That means he didn't originally have the ability to be looted when he died. The torch bearers, it annoyed me that when they died we couldn't loot them. And my mind went to the thought of, shouldn't we be at least able to pick up a torch off this dead body because he was carrying a torch? So I made a mod that made the torchbearers lootable. and drop torches. Which obviously affected that guy because he just dropped a torch. We just lit a torch off him. So you just keep moving that same box back and forth, which that's a bundle. That is that a bundle or a cloth crate? There's a file called bundle and a file called cloth crate. There's crate, cage crate, and cloth crate. Crate and cage crate are both square, so cloth crate should be the square one as well.
Problem solved.
Sure. I'm still trying to figure out which files are which. Some of the file names, it's immediately obvious, this is that. And others, it's like, so what is this when you find it in the game? There are so many different types of crate files, also. All those boxes, bags, sacks, chests. I have found 1,952 of them so far. Just those. Individual files for them. They all have different variations. It's like crate, generic, everywhere. Crate, poor, no man's land. Crate, average, no man's land. Crate, rich, no man's land. Crate, rich, interior, no man's land. Crate, epic, no man's land. Crate, unique, quest, no man's land. Crate, cave, no man's land. Crate, dungeon, no man's land. Crate, mine, no man's land. Crate market, no man's land. Crate market outdoors, no man's land. Crate market indoors, no man's land. That's just crate. Then there's some that say all of those things all over again, but it'll be broken crate, muddy crate, old crate, rusty crate, torn crate. Then you go down the same thing for a box, and the same thing for a sack, and the same thing for a bundle, same thing for a chest, which is different than treasure chest, same thing for iron-bound box. What else is there? I know there's more. Then you have all the tables and dressers and alcove, which is the wardrobes.
Damn it!
And every map has one. And it's not just No Man's Land, which is Velen, Prologue, which is White Orchard, Skellige, which is obviously Skellige, Bob, which is Toussaint, Episode 1, which is Hearts of Stone. But then within those, there's regions. So then you also have all of those all over again for Crow's Perch. All of those all over again for Seven Cats region. All of them all over again for Brothel District, Novigrad, Port District, Novigrad, Port District, Novigrad, Redanian District, Novigrad, Market District, Novigrad, Rich District, Novigrad. In addition to ones that are just Novigrad. I found 1,952 of them so far. I'm still looking.
Let's stay a bit longer.
I didn't realize there was so many. I know somebody had tried to edit the loot system before. And they'd started making a loot mod that edited all these crates like this guy is carrying. The boxes, bundles, barrels. There's a barrel. There's open barrel, closed barrel, rope barrel, which has a rope tied around it. There's all kinds of them. I was thinking there would be just a few of them, and then there's grain bag. There's rope barrel right there. Rope barrel has a rope around it. Open barrel is the one that you see with the broken rakes standing up in them. So I'm going to edit those to put all the broken rakes to show up in those. Because that's the one where we see the broken rakes. But yeah, somebody tried editing the loot system before. There's a couple of mods that edit the loot system, and while they edit a lot of the files, they actually only edit a small fraction of the files, which I didn't realize. And I know on one of them, somebody had asked, I can't remember what their idea was. They had this idea about making a totally new loot system where loot was all different. And the mod maker answered back and they said, you can do that, but it's probably going to take you a few years because you can't even begin to imagine how huge the loot system is and how many files are involved in it and how many layers and levels it connects through the game. They started pointing out that this mod that they made, it was a really big loot mod, only edited a few of the loot files.
Avallac'h claims vanity is
By a few, it was several hundred. You know, it was quite a big mod. I didn't realize until I came to this conclusion, you know what? I want to totally overhaul how the loot system works. Because I don't like the way the loot system works. I don't like the fact that we're going into people's houses and we're taking stuff off their shelves. We're taking food off their shelves, and then you can never loot it again. Well, you take bread off of somebody's shelf. You're going to tell me they're never going to bake bread again, ever? They're not going to refill that? It's illogical that stuff doesn't re-loot. I mean, some stuff it's logical, yeah, it doesn't re-loot. But other stuff, like when in people's houses and stuff, that stuff should re-loot. That's what got me started with it originally, was I wanted to make stuff re-loot. Then I figured out how to do that. We have only a few things re-looting. There are so many files. I had no clue how many files there were until I started trying to do it. You need to meditate. Might as well have you meditate while we're in a house. But then there's also all these illogical things, like half the time we'll be over here in, this is what's called an alcove. This
And above all, beware the witches
this
of
bureau
Avallac'h.
thing in the files, that's called alcove. That's the name of that file. We loot broken rakes and broken ores off of those all the time. At flawless diamonds. Does this look like a place you should loot flawless diamonds off of that? And it's a thing for your kitchen. Does it look like they would keep a broken rake laying on it? And it's like those that alright. We can see jugs and mugs on it, so obviously we could loot jugs and mugs off of it, but why are we looting broken rakes and flawless diamonds off of it? So I decided, you know what? We're already editing the loot files in order to make these things reload. Why don't we rewrite them so that items spawn in logical places to begin with? I had no clue what a big project that was going to be. I've been working on this for months. It's not hard to do. It's really easy. It's just, there's so many files. It's just time consuming because it takes you so long to find the files. Game developers had some serious lack of organization skills. The files are script, content 0, content 1, content 11, content 12, content 2, content 3, content 4, content 5, content 6, content 7, content 8, content 9. And at that point, it looks sorted. But then you open up any one of those content files and you get an additional content, script, and then a long list.
I made the decision. I must stop.
Good luck! Inside of each one of those lists are 13 additional files. Inside each of those are 16 additional files. Inside each of those are 20 additional files. Folders. These are subfolders, inside of subfolders, inside of subfolders, inside of subfolders. In some cases, they go 30 subfolders deep. Before you finally get to the file. And then you open up and you get this long list of files. And they're sorted in alphabetical order, but who the hell knows what name goes with what? Half the time they're just random strings of numbers. You get this long list of 101.w2ent. 102. What are these? They're numbers. So you have to open up every single one of them and go through it and try to figure out, okay, this is that flower over here. Why is it a number? That's what's taken so long. The actual process of here's what we need to do to make this file work the way I want it to work, that takes a few seconds. Once we find the file, it's simply a matter of you add a respawn code and an XML code. The respawn code tells it to reload in the game, so you can loot it a second time. The XML code tells it what to loot. That's where you're running into a problem with loot, because it has generic loot everywhere, no man's land. Generic loot everywhere, prologue. Generic loot everywhere, Skellige. Generic loot everywhere, Bob. And a long list of every possible loot item. And everything is drawn from those XML files. So, broken rakes off your dinner plate and flawless diamonds under your pillow in your bed for some reason. Who the hell knows why? That's why. It has all of those loot files, and they're all pulling from there. Like I said, I found so far 1,952 separate loot files.
Blazes were you thinking?
Just the boxes and crates and bundles. That's not the characters like the bandits and stuff and the monsters. That's totally different. But there's barely a dozen XML files that they pull from. So what I'm doing is I have to make a new XML file for every single one of these, which is what most people would refer to as hand-placed loot. When you hear people talking about randomized loot or hand-placed loot, what I'm doing is everything that's randomized loot, I'm making a hand-placed loot file for. So now when we go to an alcove, we pick up a mug, not a broken rake. When we go to a pile of clothes that's sitting there beside the bed, we pick up some type of a clothing item, a patched vest or a linen, not gold ingot. Every XML file is its own new code. So that I have to completely write a new code for each XML file. But that don't take long.
You flee to Maria too?
When you first start with the code, it's confusing because it's C++,
Me?
and if you don't know it, it's confusing. But once you get into doing it, it just becomes like second nature, like when you just normally writing a letter. You just sit down, write a letter, and you're good. Writing script code gets that way, where it starts out confusing, but once you realize, oh yeah, this is just that, and this is just that, and so I've reached a point where I can sit down and just write these codes. So it doesn't take, it takes a few minutes to make each new XML file. But then I have to make a new XML file for every single one of these items. Every single crate, every single box, every single barrel. That is in the entire game. I have no clue when this loot mod is going to be finished. So I didn't realize how many there were. I went into it thinking all the crates you see in the game were one crate. I didn't realize the crate that is sitting next to a windmill in No Man's Land is different from a crate sitting next to a tailor's shop in No Man's Land, which is different from a crate sitting next to a blacksmith shop. They have a separate file for every single one of them. Which makes it better because I'm able to do what I actually wanted. We're at Ilihal's house, and we can make sure that the boxes outside of Ilihal's house drop stuff that's logical for Ilihal to have in his boxes, which would be different from stuff that Schuster would have outside his house in his boxes. They do have separate loot files for their boxes, even though the texture file for the boxes is the same. The problem was just they didn't have a separate XML file for each one. It looks like they started like they were going to make a separate XML file for each one, because a few things do have their own XML files. That's why I was able to figure out how to make the separate XML files, because there are a few of them already like that.
It won't hurt any
Yes,
of
I
you to know.
Ah, this is how they
The day the
made
White
that,
Fleet
so I
was to
just make
set sail,
another one and
Gilbar
rename it, and
made
it
Dillion a
works.
gift. The Sunstone.
I know they ran out of time. A lot of stuff that they had planned to finish in the game, that they planned to put in the game, never got into the game. The map of Vizima never got into the game. There was supposed to be the same map that was in Witcher 1 for Vizima was also supposed to be in Witcher 3. And they ran out of time before they completed it. And we actually found that. I know where it is. You can find it. We found it not that long ago. We found it really recently. It's like maybe less than a month ago. It's right here. The Vizima map is right here. What they built of it. You have to have a mod that lets you go off the grid, because the grid stops right here. I'm using sensible borders. So when Geralt does the whole, I need to, turn around, too long to travel and all that stuff, and you can't, it bounces you back. You need a mod that takes that away. But then you can walk into these places that are not on the map. And this whole big section here that's black. If you swim out here, was it this one or this one? It's this one, it's the second one. You swim down here. It's under the water. You swim down here, and right when you get here, dive down. The entire map of Vizima is right there. They started making it, and it's still there in the game, but it's glitched out really bad. And it loads underwater. It's the same Vizima map that they had in Witcher 1. And there was supposed to be a whole bunch of quests involving Vizima. They didn't even complete those. I never figured out, why didn't they go back and finish that? They had this huge set of Vizima quests to go with the Vizima map. Why didn't they make a DLC like they did with Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone and just finish it later? Because they didn't do it because they ran out of time. That's why it isn't in there. But Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone weren't supposed to be DLCs either. They were supposed to be part of the original game as well. They ran out of time. So they made them into DLCs and added them later. And still, why didn't they do the Vizima one as well? With Radish, we can fix that. I do plan to do that. And obviously, we've got Witcher 1 Ciri here, so obviously we can take stuff from Witcher 1 and bring it into Witcher 3. Radish allows us to put new maps in the game. You can build an entirely new map. You want to take an entirely new country and slap it into the game? That is possible with Radish. It's not easy to do. Radish is extremely advanced mod making. You're looking at some insanely advanced mod making for this game with Radish. But we have Radish active. That's why you're seeing me doing quests that are not in the vanilla game. We have actual fan created quests in the game now. It's mod makers who are using Radish to add quests. There is a new map in the game. We haven't unlocked it yet, but I do have it in my game. We do have an additional map in the game. Where do we get the quest? can't remember. I remember in the instructions in the mod. It was like, not the instructions, the description. You have to go somewhere and get the contract, and it will unlock the ability to go to a new map. But sooner or later we'll do that. We do have an additional map in our game. Every Radish quest that is available on Nexus and several Radish quests that are not yet public that I'm beta testing are all on my game. Including the new map is also here. The new map is very simple because they were testing it out, and all it is like this little tiny island. It's like a deserted island. So there's not anything you can do there really, other than go there and say, hey look, here's a new map that wasn't in the game before. Basically that's where that map is. There is a mod maker. I don't know how long it's going to take them to do it, probably a few years. But there's a mod maker right now making an additional map to add to Toussaint. They're making an additional city to put in Toussaint. And they're making additional quests involving the Duchess. It's a really, really big, ambitious project. It's probably going to take them 4 or 5 years to do it, from what they described. I read this whole thing. They put it up. Where did I see it? It isn't on Nexus. Is it on their Patreon? They might have put it on their Patreon. That might be where I read it. I don't remember, where did I read it? They had this whole thing detailing the whole plan for the whole project, and I was like, it's one of those things I'm like, wow, is this huge? And I know how to do this stuff. And it's a bigger project than what we're doing with the Avallac'h mod. And I've estimated at least 3 years before we're close to done with the Avallac'h mod. And what they're doing is a lot bigger. So minimum, I don't think you're going to see them close to being done with the Duchess mod for at least 5 years. If you didn't know, we are building a map. In addition to the plan, I haven't started that one yet. The plan to get Vizima finished and actually usable in the game, since the game developers did start it and enough of it's there to finish it. I'm also adding the underwater world in this game. They did have stuff in place where it was obvious there was intended to be underwater quests. We've found stuff, all this swimming and exploring we've found stuff that the game developers have put in there where they started building these things and they didn't finish them. It was clear there was supposed to be some sort of a Subnautica style aspect to the game that they didn't finish. That's part of the Avallac'h mod, which is why you see us doing a lot of swimming, because we have to know the whole map of the game in order to do this. But stuff like Zoogles, which you hear Geralt talk about all the time, that and the Chiran, they're sea monsters that you saw in Witcher 1 and Witcher 2. So the texture files, the 3D models exist for those. All we have to do is bring them into this game. That's not as easy as that sounds like it is, but like I said, we have Witcher 1 Ciri in the game now. So it can be done. But having this massive undersea world that we are in the process of working on, which was in the novels, that's a thing that would people think of the Avallac'h mod, they think of just Avallac'h, and if you do read my description of what I'm doing, which is on my profile, what I'm doing is taking the world as we saw it in the novels in chapter 5 of Lady of the Lake and the epilogue of Lady of the Lake, and putting it into this game. That means also bringing the underwater world in, because there was an underwater world as well. So it's not just changing the characters, it's changing the entire map. We are essentially building a new game on a base of Witcher 3. If you go on Nexus and Witcher 3 section of it and look up Radish, just search the word Radish, it'll come right up. It's a software program that allows you to do massive amount of editing to this game that isn't normally possible. It's also how we're able to have Avallac'h talking with Avallac'h's voice at... We're running into a problem right now with the fact that he doesn't have enough vanilla game dialogue to switch out Geralt's dialogue. Meaning, we need a voice actor to redo all of Geralt's dialogue. That's not cheap. That's an expensive thing. That's why we haven't done that yet. That is the thing you're going to see eventually. Just, that's a longer term thing, because that's a really expensive thing. It's like that mod that somebody built for Skyrim. What is that called? If you're somebody who knows Skyrim, you probably know that mod. A lot of streamers will use it. It totally overhauls Skyrim. It basically removes every town and every character that you knew was in Skyrim and puts all new towns and all new characters and all new quests. It totally makes a new game using Skyrim as a base. That type of a mod is what the Avallac'h mod will be when we're done. I hear something attacking us. I hate going into bushes. I can't see in the bushes well enough to see stuff. It's like it's stuck. It's fighting with a centipede, right?
Geralt's worried.
Yeah, it's fighting with a centipede. I can see the centipede there.